As a reporter, I have a confession to make. I should have pushed harder earlier for more information about Joe Biden's mental and physical well-being and any signs of decline. So let me explain. Joe Biden was president from 2020 to 2024. I worked at CNN through 2022. During that time, the early part when I was at CNN, 2020 to 2022, Republicans would regularly ping me and say, why don't you ask more questions of Joe Biden and how he's doing? He's 76, 77, 78-year-old man. And I would sort of brush them off because what I would say is, well, there's no obvious evidence that he's declining. Yeah, he moves a little slower, he talks a little slower, but there's no evidence that he's declining. And the White House and the people around Joe Biden were absolutely adamant that suggesting anything, asking the question about whether he was in some physical, mental, or both decline was offensive. How could you? It's age shaming. And I think that impacted me at some level because while I did ask the question from time to time of, not directly the White House, but aides and people around in that orbit, I didn't really push on it, if I'm being honest.
But no one is saying they have to shut down the White House because he's not with it today. This man is awake 23 hours a day. He's clearly engaged. And the American people just elected him over somebody who was much younger, I will point out to you. My question is this. We elect people for a reason. The elected leadership of the government is supposed to be making decisions. For 4 years, the unelected have been in charge of our country during critical moments. Mm-hmm. We don't live in a country where the unelected are supposed to rule us. We live where the elected are supposed to rule. My problem is for 4 years we were lied to about who's actually running the country. This is a problem.
I think we do have to leave it there.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about this bombshell report from the mainstream liberal media, the Wall Street Journal, admitting that the White House participated in a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline, right? Apparently, the White House aides knew very, very, very early on that Joe Biden was not mentally fit enough to be president of the United States. Now, again, this was deemed a right-wing conspiracy when conservatives, Republicans, people on the right came out and said Joe Biden is not mentally fit enough to be in office. Okay, he's declining before our eyes. But the mainstream liberal media, including outlets like CNN, told us, do not believe our eyes. Don't believe your eyes, okay? You're not seeing what you think you're saying. What you're actually saying are cheap fakes, okay? This is a right-wing conspiracy that Joe Biden is mentally declining.
Cheap fake clips went viral on social media and were picked up by some news outlets. Take a look at this clip, for example. It shows Biden and other world leaders watching a skydiving demonstration before the president is seen walking away and looking in another direction. Outlets claimed that he was sort of just aimlessly wandering away. The clip amassed millions of views within just a few hours, when actually if you widen out, you can see that he was talking to one of the members of the military that was participating in that demonstration.
There's a growing and insidious trend in right-wing media, broadcast, print, and social media. It is to take highly misleading and selectively edited videos of President Biden directly from Republican National Committee social media accounts and then use those videos to spread messages virally to cast doubt on President Biden's fitness for office. Here is this headline from the New York Post, quote, Biden appears to freeze up, has to be led off stage by Obama at Megabucks LA fundraiser. The full video posted by Biden finance chair on Twitter shows something entirely different. Biden reacting to applause and then walking off stage with former President Obama.
These types of videos saying that they are done in bad faith, and that is how the White House is responding to these types of videos this evening.
All right, Arlette, thank you very much. And David Urban and Jamal Simmons are now out front. I mean, the one at the G7 very clearly shows when you extend it that he was interacting with a parachutist on the ground, extremely different than the way the clip had been cut before. But David Urban, the White House and President Obama are pushing back. Obama saying no, that President Biden did not freeze, that they're friends, that this is not, it did not happen the way that it is being portrayed. So What do you think? Is it time for people to stop selectively clipping videos and putting them out?
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand. Not only did the mainstream liberal media deny the reality that Joe Biden was mentally declining, but they essentially smeared any other outlet, whether that be a mainstream liberal media outlet or some print publication that suggested that Joe Biden may have been mentally declining. Okay, that those videos that we saw of Joe Biden, which clearly showed evidence of his mental decline, no, those weren't real. They were selectively edited. They are cheap fakes, okay? The media, the press, ran with the White House's narrative without questioning the White House at all in regards to whether or not they're telling the truth about Joe Biden's mental condition. And what you're seeing here, guys, is the decline in journalism. This is why nobody takes the mainstream media seriously anymore. This is why they're a complete and total joke, is because instead of doing actual journalism, no, that's not what they did for the last 4 years. What they did is that they ran propaganda on behalf of the White House. Anything the White House said, they took it as if it was fact, okay? Because they didn't want to help Trump, even though the reality was that, hey, Joe Biden is more than just losing a step. The guy should not be president of the United States right now. And it is a damn shame that this dude was sitting in office for 4 years straight, declining in front of our eyes. And then you had the media in the White House lie on his behalf simply because they did not want to help Trump. So without further ado, I want to react to this panel discussion from CNN in which they're going to talk about Biden quitting, right? Quiet quitting in his final days in office, and the fact that the White House covered it up along with outlets like CNN. So without further ado, let's get into it.
This piece does show Biden having all of these sort of walls up.
Yeah.
And the walls kept getting higher and higher as the years went on.
This is the biggest scandal in America. And the level and volume of people who dedicated themselves to lying to everyone at home about this man's condition for 4 straight years up through this summer is breathtaking. It's a scandal of epic proportions, and it's a fair question to ask: who is running the country? Who has been running the country? And as I said earlier, if you're worried about Donald Trump's advisors having influence, for the last 4 years, apparently this president, duly elected, but this president was not capable of fulfilling the duties of the office. And his staff and the White House lied about it and kept it from the American people. It's an absolute scandal.
Yeah, and CNN too, right? This network lied about it as well too, okay? But Scott Jennings here, he brings up a great point about how all these people are boohoo-whining and crying about Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Trump is being controlled by Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy. Trump is not actually president, blah, 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 right? These are the things that they're saying, okay? However, none of these individuals for the past 4 years straight had any questions about who's actually running the White House, because clearly Biden was not running anything, okay? Everything that Biden did was scripted. Biden wasn't even meeting with members of his own cabinet. He wasn't having cabinet meetings. And when he did, they were scripted, aka somebody else was controlling what Biden said, what was said during the meetings. They were controlling everything. Biden has not been running anything at all. And the liberal media had no questions about, well, who's advising Joe Biden? Who is behind the policy agenda of the Biden administration? They had no concerns about it. None at all. Zero. But yet, when it comes to what's happening right now they seem to have an issue with, oh, well, Trump he's taking advice from Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. This is dangerous. What I think is more dangerous than knowing who potentially has influence over the president is not knowing. While at the same time, the president is not in the mental state to make his own decisions, but yet we don't know who's actually making decisions on his behalf, right? Who's running the country? We don't know at all with Joe Biden. At least with Trump, we know, okay, well, these are the people that he's taking advice from. These are people in his circle. Blah, blah. There's transparency there, right? Even though I don't think that Elon Musk or Vivek Ramaswamy are controlling Trump. I think Trump makes his own decisions. I think he values their advice, but ultimately, in the end of the day, he's making his own decisions. I can't say that with Joe Biden. And again, The media has no concerns about that. And they should be having concerns about that because Joe Biden has been missing in action for the past 3 or 4 months. What has this guy been doing? Where has he been at? No concern whatsoever from the media.
Look, I'll say two things. One is that I think Joe Biden, despite all this, had a very successful tenure. You may disagree, but I think on policy as a Democrat, he had a very successful 4 years.
Wow.
But there's a bigger problem here. And that is that I think Democrats are at the point where Republicans might have been right after the Bush election or after the Bush term was up, which is that I think Democrats are starting to mistrust their institutions. And this goes back to a bipartisan effort to lie us into the Iraq War, not just by George Bush, but also by a lot of Democrats. It has to do with the fact that Barack Obama did not hold anybody accountable after the 2008 crisis, which also happened in George Bush's watch, but he became president. He never threw a hostage on the tarmac from Wall Street. You saw the rise of Bernie Sanders as a result of that, and you saw a lot of institutional Democrats, me included, saying, no, this is not the time. We have to stick with the institution. And I think you have a lot of Democrats now, me included, who are pretty sick of the institution and trusting people in the institution. And this is just one example, most recent example, I think, of people institutionally lying to the American people. And what you're ultimately going to see, and I don't have a problem saying this as a Democrat, is that you're going to see a Tea Party version rise up in the Democratic Party based on the fact that this is yet another marker of people just not trusting our leaders anymore. And I'm sorry to say that, but I think we brought this on ourselves.
Yeah, I remember so distinctly when the Wall Street Journal's first story came out and the uproar about it among Democrats and the anger that they were making things up. In this story, they have multiple sitting members of Congress on the record talking about how they hardly ever heard from the president. They're chairmen of their respective committees, going all the way back to the Afghanistan withdrawal. I mean, this is something that they told the public was a Joe Biden decision. And according to this article, he was not really a huge part of rationalizing it, even to his own party among the elected officials.
But I think there is, like, I don't know if everybody's looking at me like I'm supposed to be defending the Democrats right now.
No.
Because, like, I think the interesting thing about this entire question is, like, when even the Democratic institutionalists realized, like, this dude can't be president, they said he can't be president, and then didn't blindly defend him. You know, he would have been running for a second term except for the Democratic Party. And now and there were people who always thought that this man could not be president now, right? But that is not up to, well, that could be up to the cabinet, right? And we were lied to, but I don't know how to defend that because I didn't think he should be president for a second term. I think that the party, when people realized that he could not do the job of president, they did something about it.
There were a lot of people, even at that time, still defending his ability to run for president again. Some people even suggested that it didn't matter whether or not he could continue as president, that he should continue to run.
Even after that disastrous debate on this network, there were some people being like, oh, he had a bad night. He had a bad night. You know, and one of the quotes in that Wall Street Journal piece was, you know, there are good days and bad days. Today's a bad day. We'll deal with this tomorrow. The problem is tomorrow never came. It was just one bad day after another. And this kind of shielding President Biden, lying to the American people, telling them, don't believe your lying eyes, is yet another reason why President Trump was so successful. Because people just don't trust what they're being told. When they see clearly there was a decline in President Biden, and you're told, don't believe your own lying eyes, nothing to see here, people go, all right, what else are they lying to us about?
In this
Ding, 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 ding. Ding, ding, ding. I'm glad this woman called out CNN to say that, no, you guys were a part of this as well, too. Because it's just so funny to watch the media now report on the Wall Street Journal admitting that, yeah, the Democrats covered up Biden's mental decline, but at the same time, the media participated in it as well, too. Again, this is why journalism exists. Journalism is supposed to exist to question these things, to say, hey, you know what? We don't believe what the White House is saying. Let's ask more questions. Let's press harder. But that's not what they did. That's not what they did at all. What they did is that they just went along with whatever the White House said because they hate Trump. And the crazy part about this is that had they actually did the damn jobs, Biden probably would have dropped out last year before the Democrat primary. And if the Democrats would have had a real primary, they probably would have had a stronger candidate. I'm not saying they would have beat Trump with another candidate, but they probably would have had a better chance of beating Trump, right? That's the crazy part about this. The lies, the gaslighting, the cover-ups, I think are probably the main reasons why Trump won. It's one of the main reasons. Had they not run propaganda on behalf of the Democrats and Joe Biden for 4 years straight, lying to the American people, honestly, it would have been much more difficult for Trump to win. That's the crazy part about it. The whole point of them doing it was to take down Trump. That was the whole point. But it ended up backfiring because it created distrust. People were like, okay, all this stuff you say about Trump, I don't believe because we know that you're lying to me about this, right? We know that you're lying to me about inflation. We know that you're lying to me about the border. We know that you're lying to me about crime. We know that you're lying to us about all of these things. So why should we believe you when it comes to Trump? And then they just blatantly lied about Trump too. The whole, bloodbath thing, complete and total lie, right? Complete and total lie. So when you lie like the mainstream liberal media has lied over the past 3 to 4 years, I mean, really, let's be honest, it's been 8 years straight. I think the American people, they get sick of it. And there's this reflexive rejection of anything that the media puts out that's negative towards Trump because of it, right? And that's kind of where we're at right now. And I think the media is going to really struggle in the next few years because they still are not very credible. So when they come out and they start reporting all these bad things about the Trump administration, which they will do, it's just not going to land the same way that it may have landed in his first administration. And that's the crazy part about it, right? They don't even realize that, hey, our reporting doesn't matter. Our narrative doesn't matter. If anything, our narrative, when we report negatively on Trump, it actually helps Trump, right? At this point. That's what's happening. So once again, we can say that a right-wing conspiracy was in fact true. Okay, now, I mean, we already knew this was true a long time ago. It was proven to be true. But it's just so funny how this report comes out and now all of a sudden the media is like, yeah, we were lied to, right? Or we lied on behalf of the White House, okay, because we believe everything that they said, right? When these reports were coming out years ago. This isn't the first report that came out saying that, hey, members of Congress had concerns about Joe Biden's mental capabilities. This is not the first report that has said that. These reports have been out for years. These people, the media, they just decided to ignore it. And now all of a sudden, Biden's out of office. Now they admit the truth. Oh, yeah, Biden, he was mentally declining. We lied. Again, this is why they had no credibility. And I don't think they can get it back. I really don't. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.